Hey, what's going on, everybody? Michael back at you guys today. We got my main man Frank here with me. How you doing today, Frank?
I'm doing great.
Hey, appreciate you being here today, man. You participated in the call to action. We're here. We're talking about military to civilian transition. So, if you don't mind letting the listeners know, what made you join the military? What branch of service were you in? How was your career? Where'd you travel to? Touch on a couple things leading up to your transition out.
Okay, so I joined the Army in 1982 at the very beginning of the, not very beginning, but like the beginning of the almost the pinnacle of the Cold War. Um, you know, a lot of guys I grew up with in Dallas, Texas, we figured it was a thing. We need to get ready to fight the Russians or the Chinese or whomever. But we thought we were going to fight world communism, so we all enlisted, right?
Yeah.
A lot of us. And then so for me, I joined the Army. I wanted to be a Ranger. The only place you could be a Ranger was in the Army.
Okay.
I knew what Rangers were because I grew up kind of in an Army family and had a lot of my friends' fathers had served, particularly in Vietnam. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to do. I really knew exactly what I wanted to do in the Army. And so that's what I ended up doing, shipped off to 16-week infantry OSUT, then went to jump school, then went to, well, now they call it RAS, but back then they called it RIP, Ranger Documentation.
Okay.
Typically 6 weeks, but for us it took a little longer because we couldn't get a night jump in because you had to get at least one night jump combat equipment to graduate, and so that was holding us up. And then then I went to Bravo Company, 1st Ranger Battalion in Hunt Army Airfield, Savannah, Georgia, and spent about my first year in the Army there, and then it was like, well, if you don't go to Ranger School there, like you're just pretty much going to be a rifleman forever.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten, don't get me wrong, I got a lot of great experience. I mean, we did real stuff all the time, like real stuff. But when that's all you're exposed to, you think the whole Army's like this. And for me, I thought, well, I'd like to go see other places because back then Savannah wasn't really friendly to us.
Okay.
And not because we weren't really good neighbors either.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so they offered a bunch of us an opportunity. They do these what they call purges. So they do a cycle. They'll send people, put you on assignment, let you go, right?
All right.
And so they wanted a bunch of guys to go to Germany, wanted a bunch of guys to go up to Alaska. And I spent a summer in Alaska when my dad was building a refinery outside of Fairbanks. And so I was like, well, I'd like to go back to Alaska. I mean, I was there for a summer. I'd like to go see really what the whole, what it's like. So I got PCS to back then it was a airborne company. So you had these Charlie Airborns, Charlie 4th Battalion, Charlie 5th Battalion, Charlie 6th Battalion. So it was before they had an airborne battalion or now an airborne brigade. And so I went up there to be an Arctic paratrooper,
Okay.
which is really funny because about half the guys who are up there were all guys who left either 275 or 175.
Yeah. Same people you were with.
So the attitudes were the same, but different training. Not much live stuff, not much real stuff. Just regular kind of rotational stuff, but real cold. Yeah, really cold.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think it could get that cold. But yeah, and so and of course that's when we really did all of our training. We didn't do a lot in the summer. We did everything in the winter. Summertime was for fishing and EIB, right?
Yeah.
And I decided to get out of the Army, and I did, and went back to Texas. And then I was trying to go to school. I was working at UPS part time, which really is like working full time. Then I was just miss the people, because it's a lot. I realized really how different I was at that point, how different other people were. It's like, I mean, a lot of whining, a lot of complaining about nothing.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have those relationships. And so I went and re-enlisted back in. They let me come back in. I stayed infantry, so I got to keep my sergeant stripes. And then I went to 82nd, 2504. And then I got there. It was just bad timing because I got there, and then they had a bunch of buck sergeants just terminate, like quit. Which means they went over to COSCOM, right? COSCOM, the leading shithouse land. They went over there. And yeah, right. And they went over there, and then I was stuck there. And so the post, it was 250% overstrength Sergeant 11 Bravos.
Wow.
So then they did a cap cycle, sent but they couldn't. What do you call it? They couldn't. They couldn't send the guys who terminated because they were getting out. So guys like me, man, we were like. Also, all of a sudden, all those guys from the 82nd, from all the different brigades, were in this big room getting briefed. Yeah, you're going to Korea. That's how it is, right? And so I was like, oh man. And of course, back then, Korea wasn't like really popular at all. You know, no one ever told me, oh, Korea's a great time. No one ever told me that, right? Oh, you're gonna, you know, everybody just, you know, you heard people walking about Korea. But so I went there, and then I was supposed to go. My first sergeant, who'd been over Korea, he knew one of the battalion sergeant majors up north. And so he called him up and said, hey, you know, you need to get this sergeant. He's a really great squad leader. I mean, you need to get him. He's solid. And so when I got there, you know, when I was leaving, the first sergeant called me and said, hey, I talked to my sergeant major up there. He's going to come get you at the Turtle Farm. That's where that's a repo up there in Camp Casey. So they call it a Turtle Farm because it takes a year to go from one door to another. The door to come there and then the door to leave. To go from one door to the other.
Yeah.
Turtle Farm. And the Army, you know, we call it these great little, you know, acronyms. But anyway, so he said, yeah, but when you get to Seoul, you know, when you get to Camp Quarter, you get to Seoul, make sure you get a fresh haircut, pull one of the uniforms out of the duffel bag, get it started, pull your boots out, get the you know, the Adashi there, the shine guy to shine your boots up, and then that way when you report up, fresh haircut, fresh uniform, shiny boots, set a good impression with that sergeant major when he comes, because he's personally going to come get you. I'm like, okay, cool. I wouldn't get all that. Unbeknownst to me, another first sergeant was there in the honor guard who needed infantrymen, but he didn't want infantrymen like he'd been getting from like the old guard stuff. He wanted like guys coming out of 82nd, 101st, because he had kind of a problem in his company, right?
Yeah.
Because the honor guard, the Wijande, you know, they thought the honor guard, they're full of like a lot of these, what do you call it, prima donnas, right? And they were just like, you know, they were off the chain, and they just. While they were disciplined in their drill and disciplined in their ceremonies, they were indisciplined as soldiers. So they wanted to get a bunch of hard charging sergeants like me in there. So instead of going up north, I come back all gussied up, ready to go, ready to get on the bus, right? They're calling out names, and me and three other guys are sitting there, like looking at each other. Why aren't we getting on the bus? And then that's when this first sergeant Chin, Korean American, Sang Si Chin. This little short guy comes in. He goes, okay. And he got a really thick Korean American accent, right? And he's like, okay, so you guys, I need you, hard charger. You're going to come work for me. You got a problem with that? And we're like, oh, no, first sergeant. Okay. Yeah. And so, you know, we're all going over to the honor guard, and, you know, and then so I did that. Now, the other good thing was that I met my wife. She was a soldier, Korean American soldier working in the 8th Army. She had processed me. But I met her later at a party, and we just hit it off and everything like that. And then that was, you know, she became my girlfriend, and then my fiance. And then, but eventually I had to leave. So I was supposed to. Hold on, that's my alarm. I'm sorry.
You good?
Just remind me about this.
Oh, you good?
So then, you know, I was going to go. So when I was in the honor guard, I was the 8th Army NCO of the year, right? So I got to go to D.C. and meet all these guys, everything. So I was up there. The 75th Regiment Sergeant Major comes in. He's talking to me, and you know, and he's like, "So, Sergeant, where are you going when you get done with Korea?" And I said, "Well, you know, Sergeant Major, I mean, they put me going back to 504 PRR, you know, because when you get there, they tell you right then you pick where you're going back to, right?"
Yeah, exactly.
He was there for a year.
Yeah.
And so I said, but, you know, if you got a job for me, Sergeant Major, I'll go back to the regiment, you know. And so he said, well, okay, you're going back to the regiment then. And so I had my orders. I was going to go back to the regiment, but here's what happened. Headquarters Department of the Army had a better idea. You're going to go be a drill sergeant. And a drill sergeant at Fort Jackson.
Oh, man.
And so, yeah, and then my first sergeant's just laughing. So he called me, he's just chuckling. He reads me the letter, you know, congratulations, because they make it sound like it's a good thing. Congratulations, you've been selected as the top 20% of your peer group. So blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And then he says, Jackson. I'm going, why did they send me to Jackson? They're like, they need infantry drill sergeants there too. And guess what? You're training females. I'm like, what? And well, I've been around females at schools and stuff like that, but I never had to like train them. And so that was kind of terrifying, right? That was good, like a whole new thing I was going to have to deal with and understand and wrap my mind around and even learn how to wear, like the female uniform. I never knew how to women wore their stuff until I went to drill sergeant school and had to learn it. Right? I had to,
Right.
I
Indeed.
how to put their stuff on their uniform. You know, and I mean, the whole point I was thinking is like, why don't you just put pockets on your jacket like the rest of us, right? Put pockets on your shirt, pockets on jackets. I mean, if you say, well, they'll be non-functional. Well, do you think I used the pockets on those over pockets on any of my stuff? No, right? They're just, you know. But anyway, so I did that, and you know, I mean, so it's so funny. I was at drill sergeant school. Little side note here. This is a great story. So while I was there, I was pretty disgruntled. But you know, I didn't have a choice. So I made it a point of I'm going to score the highest I can on every exam, on every performance evaluation, on everything I can, because I'm going to crush that academic record up there, and I'm going to be the man. And then I'm going to remind them, oh, by the way, I didn't volunteer for this. You DA selected me for this.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a whole thing. They tend to really condescend to the DA selectees because, you know, you weren't good enough. You weren't selfless enough to volunteer. We had to select you, right? They tell you that. So kind of silly with you, right? Some of the instructors. But that's okay. So every time I spoke my rhino, not bad for a DA selectee, huh? Drill sergeant. Of course, I'd have to do push-ups. You know, that was always good for, like, you know, this is worth 50 push-ups. I'll say it. So we did that, right? And then funny thing, on my way out the door when I was retiring in 2012, so one of my sergeants had to go to Fort Jackson. That became the only drill sergeant school. So he had to go to Fort Jackson to be a drill sergeant. And he didn't want to be a drill sergeant. And he came and talked to me, right? Sergeant Major, I think, Sergeant, I can empathize. I can truly empathize. But here's what I'll tell you. Do your best. It'll make you better. Right? Get it done. Okay? And if you really want to impress me, be the man. Because don't ever come to me and tell me how school's easy if you're not the man. See, if you're the man, you know, you're the distinguished graduate or the honor graduate or whatever, you know, you're the leadership award. Yeah. You're one of those dudes, right? Then you can come and tell me how easy the course was or how, this or that. But if you're not the man or you're not on the commandant's list, I don't want to hear it. You just should have applied yourself. Maybe it would have been more challenging if you just applied yourself, right? I'm kind of a smart aleck like that.
No, I was going to say, you got to at least get on the commandant's list, man. I was going to say that. At least be in the top 20% before you open your mouth, man. You can't be saying too much.
Exactly. So anyway, but I told the guys, be the man. Be the man, right? And so, I was about a month out, and he got done with this. He got done with the school, and he gives me a call. He's like, "Hey, Sergeant Major Wood." I was like, "Yeah, what's up, man?" He's like, "Is this your name up on the board, Wood?" And then he read the score, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's still up there." And so this is like 1987, 1987 when I scored that, and now it's 2012. This guy's like, that's your score, that's your name. I'm like, yeah, it's still up there. And he's like, well, for another 2 days.
Yeah, he about to take you down. So that's cool. That is good. That is good.
That was not an easy task because I came within 17 points of max points total. 17 points. And this guy came within 5.
Okay.
He crushed it. And you know, and I don't know if he thought I was going to get triggered by it, but people don't understand for me, that is like awesome. Like when a subordinate, when one of my troopers I see becomes a sergeant major.
Yeah.
Like squad leader, he's a platoon sergeant, or even a first sergeant. But any of those guys, then I see them become like a sergeant major, they become a first sergeant, or like that. They take my score down, man. They are, and I mean, like, there's gonna have to be a dude with a perfect score to beat this cat. And that's possible, but it's highly improbable, right?
Yeah.
So I told him, I said, that is so awesome. I said, I couldn't hope for a better person to take down my score like that. I really do. I laud you. That's awesome. You did what I told you to do, and that's a good deal. And I tell you, man, you'll forget about it like I did, and then maybe one of your boys will come and tell you and remind you that you're on that board. You're the man.
Yeah. 20 more years, but you had it for 20 years or longer than that, man. So you did your reign, and like you said, dude, you want the younger people to pass this up.
One of my guys that beat me was awesome. That was the best.
Yeah, even better. That's like full circle, man. That's kind of wild. So you got out.
Because the thing
Go ahead.
Anyway, so I did my drill sergeant time. I was able to luckily get a 1-for-1 swap with a guy in Italy. So I left there and went to Italy to the back when it was the 325 Airborne Battalion Combat Team. I did about 18 months there. My tour got curtailed because my wife was pregnant when we got married before I went there. So we couldn't get Joe domicile. So they curtailed it so I could be back for my first board son's birth. And then we went to the 82nd again, and I did my time there. And then she went to warrant officer, and then we went up to Fort Campbell because now I'm following her because she's a warrant officer. Because this back then they grandfathered us because we were both enlisted. We got married, but she became a warrant officer. They were going to make one of us get out. The whole frat thing hadn't gotten really silly like it later did. So we went to Campbell. I was a Rakkasan, which is that was another interesting organization. I tell guys all the time, people say, because Aggies, they say Aggies are a cult. And I'm like, yeah, so what? And they look at me funny. I'm like, hey, I've been in plenty of cults, man. Being in a cult ain't necessarily a bad thing. I was in 175, that's a cult. I was an Arctic paratrooper, that's a cult. I was a Rakkasan, that's a cult. I was a devil in baggy pants. Oh yeah, that's a cult, right? So I have a number of these cultish experiences, right? But anyway, but we did that time there, and then they sent her to Lewis, so I followed her there. And I was in Deuce 4, 124 Infantry, back with 1st Brigade, 25th separate brigade. Then we transitioned to the SBCT Striker Brigade. Then we reflagged and went to Germany. So I stayed about 10 years, pretty much in the same organization, just moving from one company to another company, to different levels, like from a platoon sergeant to a staff NCO to a first sergeant to a rival company first sergeant, headquarters first sergeant, operations sergeant major, and then command sergeant major in the sister battalion. But we changed units, so yeah, I became like the institutional dude of this one organization forever. And I knew where I knew everybody, I knew everything. And if I didn't know where, I know where to find it.
Yeah.
Then they made a rule saying, yeah, well, you've been a sergeant major in this squadron forever, so you got to leave. And so I did a little staff time over at 7th Army while they were finding me a job. They weren't doing a big thing about it, so I found out that 1-8 Cav was a combined arms battalion, and the guy I knew had come out of there. So I said, you know what? I've never been assigned to Texas, my home state, because I'm not a tanker, but now there's an opportunity. So I worked an assignment, so we went to Fort Hood, Texas, where I was 1-8 Cav, and that's where I finished my assignment. I was supposed to go to Fort Polk to be a trainer mentor, OTC, to help the next generation. I was really planning on doing it, but the sergeant major of the Army at the time, this guy named Chandler, he kind of was being really, really, really just bad, just poor leadership. He was just not a good leader. He was very sycophantic and very narcissistic, and didn't care about sergeant majors, didn't care about us, and so it wouldn't work a deal. He kept trying to change, kept trying to break his own rule. So instead of like you could delay my movement, you can't press my movement up, right? That's what the rules say. And he kept trying to do it. So I finally said, you know what? In the end, my family's important to me. I already didn't get to my adopted son. He went to A&M. We didn't get a chance to get him in and transition properly. We just literally dropped him off at the Corps Center, the Corps Cadet Center, and left. And I had to go to Fort Hood and report quickly and get ready to train and go back to Iraq, right?
Yeah.
And so, I didn't get to do the right thing. And then John, right, like the assignment was set up where I was going to be able to finish my time at Fort Hood, get John into College Station properly, and then I would go to Fort Polk, and then I'd just be a Geo Bash for about 2 years and then retire, right? Do my 32 and retire. But this guy, Chandler, was really being just kind of obstinate. And he gave me this, like, either do what I'm telling you to do, or you can retire. And at that point, I was like, I'm almost at 30 now, and you're going to talk to me like this? I'm not asking for something. I'm just asking you to follow the rule. I'm not asking you to make an exception in my case. I'm asking you to follow your own rules and stop breaking your rules and just acting like I'm being selfish and not selfless. Because, I don't, even as hard as I was a sergeant major, I would tell my boss, hey, that's a family thing. We need to take care of that. That guy, to put him on rear D because he's not gonna deal with us. He's not gonna help us downrange when he's doing this. He's gonna be a hindrance. Let's just, you know what I mean? And let's figure it out. But yeah, so you know, the guy should have never been the sergeant major. That's my opinion. That's just my personal opinion. He wasn't sage. He wasn't wise. He didn't have the proper assignments and grooming that would get him into that position where he could make really kind of higher level tactical thinking. And so anyway, so I just said, you know what? Too easy. I'm sitting in Kuwait on strategic reserve, and I just typed up a 4187, and I took over to my bosses to get signed. And I said, okay, here's the deal, man. I'm retiring. And I dropped my retirement email, and here you go. Sign it, approve it, and I'm coming back to Fort Hood when we get back, and I'll start out processing. And you know what? I've got some things I want to do. There's some other things in this world I want to do. I'm going to do those things, and it's going to be okay. But you know, when I got home, man, I had a lot of baggage. You know, my wife finally sat down and said, you know, there's something wrong with you. You're not the same. You haven't been the same since your first trip to Iraq, and you have times when you're okay, but times, and she said, really now you're getting worse, right? You're getting really worse.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it. You don't see it in yourself. But then when she starts, you know, when you stop being defensive and you listen and you see, yeah, like even a 20-minute drive from Fort Hood back to my house was not decompressing me enough that I could be around, you know, my sons and my wife and all that. I have to kind of go outside for a bit, have a nice tall cold beverage of some sort,
Yeah.
you know, get that down, and then okay, the edge is off, and then we can talk. There's something wrong. So I went over to the triage people, you know, the mental triage guys there over by the hospital. And it's so funny. I walked in there, and of course, there's a bunch of soldiers in there, and they see me in there, and they're all like freaked out. And then I come in, and the staff's like, oh, sorry, you're in the wrong door. And I'm like, wrong door? They're like, yeah, I guess there's a door for sergeants major and senior officers.
So they got their private door so they don't get seen by anybody else, huh?
Well, it's not about protecting us. It's really about not intimidating the soldier. Because if we come walking in there and the soldier sees us, they're freaked out that now, you know, we might harbor in our mind, oh, this guy's weak or some shit. And so I understood. They explained it to me. So they pulled me over and they just talked to me, asked me what's going on. I told them what's going on. And man, it broke me down, you know, because you had to express your fears. My fear was that I'm going to get out of the Army and I'm going to piss off my wife and my family. They're just going to leave me. I'm just going to be by myself, right? Like, because I knew when I get out of the Army won't give a shit about you. So,
when did you learn that? When did you know that?
Well, I started figuring it out just because all my buddies were retiring and they were letting me know. And then I was kind of seeing once I was on my, you know, my own thing, I'd already done my change of responsibility and I'd already, you know, handed everything over and I'm just like doing my own part, take care of my stuff, you know, and out processing the Army, you know, I went to that TAPS thing. What a joke that was. Holy mackerel.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was like, dude, really?
Did you do executive level TAPS? Because I've heard from another sergeant major that had 32. He told me about it was the first time I ever heard about it. Did you get to do that too?
No, they didn't have anything like that. They just had like a regular TAPS. And then the funny thing was that one of the guys working there were trying to hire me for it. I'm like, how are you going to hire me for TAPS when I haven't worked out as a civilian? What relevance do I bring to that, right?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
You want to give me a temporary job till I can find a better job? I mean, like, no, I'm good. But so, but no, I had to get that mental health right, you know. And so when they interviewed me and they sent me over to this doctor, and she just got finished with they did the experimental treatment plan, a 2-year study that really just like 85% like boom, and then of the rest, almost all of them showed a major decrease where they weren't having to be on drugs. And it was called persistent exposure or something like that. So it's just, so what it is just like these couple sessions, you got to go and you got to sit down, you got to talk about these traumatic things that happened. And you got to describe it, man. You got to like describe it, visualize it while you're describing it. You know, these things that you've experienced and dealt with and you know, while you were deployed and, you know, how you felt, and why you felt. And then you got to like go home and listen to yourself and visualize it again. So what it teaches you is to compartmentalize these feelings and understandings and these things that you saw, so you know where they're at. And then when you do that for about 4 to 6 weeks, and it's exhausting, yeah, then they bring you back in, and then they just ask you they give you some perspective kind of leading, reflective questions like, so in combat, people get killed, yes? Well, yeah, of course. Okay. So you see where we're going, so you kind of understand that your brain tells you that certain things were connected and related, and you believe that, and that's that to you that's fact, that's reality, but actually it's not. It's your brain telling you some bullshit.
Yeah.
Not reality at all.
Yeah.
And there's very little that you really control in combat. The enemy gets a freaking vote, dude. And anyone who's been in enough contact knows you can be the best equipped, best trained, non-complacent, whatever, and you can have a bad fucking day.
Yeah.
And people that you've known for years and you give a shit about, and you got to put them in a body bag because the enemy got lucky.
Exactly.
And you got to wrap your mind around that maybe some of this luggage and some of this baggage you're carrying, it's just your brain feeding you bullshit information, and you need to learn to shut that off. You need to learn to say no. Or it's okay if you see something and it triggers an emotional response because it brings back those memories, and you just got to ride it. You got to roll with it. You got to understand it. That's how it is. It's okay. And it'll subside. You just get through it, and it'll subside, and that's how it is.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay. So that you don't think like, you're looking for a permanent solution to a temporary issue.
Exactly. But before that trip to the mental health triage, like you probably, I mean, I'm not assuming, but I'm asking you, how many times did you go to mental health before? It might not have been thought about before your wife did that, right?
Never. Every time. I'm good. Right? I don't break out the sudden rage. Hell no. I said everything you got to say because I want to go back.
There you go. Yeah, man. It took you 30 years, but you still got around to it, like props to your wife for, saying something to you. And I'm sure that was an eye opener. If you had a staff sergeant or something like that, that's in your battalion or something, tell you that, you probably would have told them to push. But, coming from someone that loves you and cares about you and sees you, like you were man enough to sit down and swallow your pride, man, with all that and be like, you know what? Because even if someone's wife told them that, they could be like, yeah, whatever, I'm good, so props to you.
But to be honest with you, man, and I've seen guys break down even in combat, and I never, to me, I didn't judge him on that. For me, it was like, hey, let's give this guy some space. Let's get the professionals over here. I can't console this guy because I don't know. I'm not in that place right now. Like, I've always been very cautious about like when guys, like somebody commits suicide and then people get all kind of, some people get a little, I think to me, I feel like they get a little sanctimonious about it. And I just always remind them of this. It's like, have you ever been that forlorn? Have you ever been so depressed that you thought that the only way out was, fuck it, I'm done?
Yeah.
And until you're there, you can't wrap your mind around it. You probably should shut up about it. And if anything else, not even try to figure out how could you seen the signs or anything like that. Don't let the experts figure that out. But look at yourself and then see that, you know what? I'm not going to be that way. And what do I need to do if I think I'm getting like that? Who can I go to? Right?
Yeah.
Nothing else. You know what I mean? Because you got your Ranger buddies, but I got a permanent Ranger buddy, right? And that's Chief Kim. That's my wife, right? Ninja 6. She's my permanent Ranger buddy, right?
Yeah.
She ain't gonna tell me what I want to hear. She tells me what I need to hear, right? And that's really the thing that I'm trying to get people to understand is, and I thought that was really my job always as a senior NCO,
right?
Advising officers. I ain't gonna tell you what you want to hear, man. I gotta tell you what you need to hear, and maybe I could have been more tactful at times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that's invaluable feedback. And so, like, if somebody tells me what I need to hear, I ain't shooting the messenger. I'm gonna reflect on it and take it for what it's worth. And if it applies, it applies. If it don't, hey, but at least this guy had the wherewithal to say something to me.
Indeed. Yeah, man. It doesn't. It's got to have them people in your corner that are willing to say something, even if you don't want to hear it, because those are your real friends, man, or your real family, or whatever. It's like you can't. If someone's trying to stop eating junk and you're saying, "Nah, man, you're good, dude, just eat it," you're not really doing him a service because he's trying to complain to you or she's trying to complain to you about what they're trying to change their life. Don't try to help them overcome that. Just don't give in because they might not want to hear that from you. People need to hear that. I feel like I say that all the time myself. I'm like, damn, I need people to sometimes put me in a reality check because we're all responsible to do it for ourselves, but sometimes it's validation when you hear it from somebody else. So,
well, a doctor can't cure himself, and I never recommend a lawyer to defend themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because you got that bias thing, that confirmation bias that can kind of like really jack you up. Now, one other indicator, and I just came on my mind, I really kind of realized that the Army don't give a shit. So, Fort Hood, right? And I've never seen this before. So I had a couple soldiers. They were broke. I mean, like one guy had a major coronary. They told him if he has another one, it's going to kill him. This guy, I tried everything to get this guy medically retired, to get him in medical status, right? Over at the Warrior Battalion.
Yeah.
The Woody Warrior guys. I
Yeah.
tried everything, man. And these freaking doctors, these are active duty guys, man. And I go to these boards. And I would get censured. I would actually get censured. I would get yelled at because I would just lose it. Because I had a guy in a freaking wheelchair because he had a spinal injury. And you're like, and I'd have to tell first sergeants, relax. If these guys, hey, just have them call in and check in. They don't need to be in a formation, I don't think. I mean, what does it look like? You got a guy in a wheelchair in a formation, man. It's stupid. Or you look at me like, but Sergeant Major, I was like, yeah, dude, I'm the hardest dude on the planet, but that's stupid. Let's not do that, right? And
yeah.
Guy, I mean, and my boss even like, Sergeant Major, you're going to give yourself a heart attack over this. I'm just like, no, sir. It's just, I can't believe it's just this stupid. Retire medically, give him disability, right? Dom his illness. Hopefully the VA system, which is a state by state, grab.
Yeah.
Texas is okay. Florida's better. But, like Washington State, you're screwed, man. You don't want to be in the VM in Washington State because they can get two rats' asses about you up there.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's so much validation from someone like you, man, because you did the time. We all did our time. But for a senior, I love hearing this stuff from senior leadership because, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do as an NCO. You take care of your soldiers. The more you go up, the more people you got to take care of. But it's like when you come time to get out, there's nothing there. There's no sergeant's time training on finances when you get out. There's nothing telling you to, hey, guys, make sure you get that VA rating before you get out, so you have that as soon as you get out, and make sure you get that GI Bill going because they don't tell you that.
Because even me, right? I got the executive, physical, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
I sent my stuff in. All of it got denied. Every bit of it. And I got scars on my elbow, scars on my knee. When I had surgery, I got serious problems, right? I mean, I don't have a whole lot of stuff, but the stuff I got is like a big deal, right?
Yeah.
and then, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And luckily, the Texas Veterans Administration here, the TVA, who half the guys worked in the VA at one time or another, so I walked into them with all my stuff and said, here's what happened. And the guy looked and was like, what? And he redid everything and sent it right there to Utah. Right there in his office, he said, 30 days, you come see me, Sergeant Major. And these guys are going to answer, right? But no, it came in 30 days, and actually, it was done right. And he said, if you think there's something else, here's a sheet, fill it out, take everything they offer, you better take it because, hey, man, it ain't free chicken. Everybody thinks it's free chicken. It ain't. You paid for it. You paid for it with your blood, sweat, and tears. You paid for it with all the bullshit you had to put up with. And all the like no cartilage in your feet because why? Because the human body's not designed to run for 20 years, but yet, and I did 30, right? So I haven't had cartilage in my feet for a decade, and I was still having to run, right? Like, okay, I mean, let's figure it out, man. And so, but yeah, and that's the thing that I feel. I mean, I empathize with people. I understand, but again, some of the stuff is that and I try to tell guys like, yeah, if you have PTSD, particularly severe, and you're finding yourself on all these psychotropics, okay, man, if it's working for you, great. But I'm willing to bet you dollars and donuts. You go to this exposure stuff I went to, right? And you do the work. You put the sweat equity in, and I bet you it makes you better. I bet you it helps you out, and I bet you'll be happier. And that's important too, because I just wasn't even. I mean, I found no joy in anything. I couldn't imagine, like, I go to these football games here. We got 112,000 seat stadium here in Texas.
Yeah.
It's the largest in the state of Texas. It's the 7th largest in the nation.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't imagine before doing this being able to go into that environment and enjoy a football game. Nah. Because, when you're in a crowd of people, bad shit happens, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I could not. And that's the other part of the therapy is like, yeah, they make me take a book and go sit like in the middle of a food court, like at lunch, and try to read and write about what I was reading, right? And focus on and turn off all this ancillary shit, right?
Yeah.
Because I was hypervigilant. I mean, like, I'm surprised I didn't get a lot of tickets because I was also a very erratic driver.
I experienced that for you, so I guess I got that piece, but it slowed down after I had a kid and got rid of a fast car and get a Camry. You just sort of blend in with the DV license plate and go on my way, man. You know what I mean? I'm sick of getting pulled over at Fort Carson on Thanksgiving for going 80 or whatever it was, or 90. You know what I mean? So man, you're absolutely right.
Right, because you're not gonna get boxed in, right? We gotta go, right?
Crazy, man. I mean, dude, road rage is real. Road rage is real, boys and girls, because you don't think it's road rage when you're in Afghanistan cutting people off, doing your TTPs and doing all your stuff. That's road rage in the States, folks.
It's fight. It's your 5 and 25s, and it's like you're not turning it off because the Army does great about getting us ready to go, right? It's great while we're there. When we come back, there's nothing, man. There's nothing to turn down the volume. No. That switch is staying on, dude. It ain't a dimmer switch. That we stay on full volume. But this was helping me to turn that switch off, or at least know I can turn the switch off here. It's okay. I can be in this crowd of 100,000 people making like 134 decibels, and it'll be okay. Right. And of course, I'm also have to help out by the cannon, so that's always great. Yeah. Every time we score, we pull that howitzer, that pack howitzer.
You get that tinnitus already. You got that ringing, man.
Yeah. Right, yeah. So, but I don't. I just laugh. Now I watch when everybody jumps. I just start laughing like, come on, we're gonna find the cannon. We just scored.
Right.
It's like something we do, right? But no, it's so yeah, and you're right. But I tell you guys, you got to fight for it. But just be rational. Don't be irrational. Don't Don't let them make you lose your shit.
Right.
But know that paperwork and keep pressing and get what they owe you. And then what I try to tell guys is like the other thing that helped me transition was finding a job. And like money's a thing, but for me it ain't everything. But it is a thing. I understand it. It is a thing.
Right.
But so I'll take a cut in pay if I have a job that is relevant, or I have a job that it can be a legacy. It can be something connected, bigger than just me and myself, right? And so that's why when I retired, once I dropped my paperwork, I started looking like, what do I want to do? And I was like, I always wanted to be a JROTC instructor. I loved it as a kid. My sons loved it. And that would be really kind of, I think, a cool thing because it's a unique curriculum. It's very interesting. And it's leadership and citizenship and fitness. And it's a holistic scope of things. And so I just quickly went on there and said, what do I got to do? And I just started, checking off the blocks so that by the time I retired and I was out, I had my little, they give you a little letter that says, you're what they call cost shared, which means that at the end of the year, headquarters, USACC, United States Army Cadet Command, will pay them back the money they pay you for your salary, right?
Okay.
So you're free chicken to any school district, right? And you're a fully credentialed teacher, so you can do anything. Administer tests, proctor tests, all that kind of stuff, right? And so anyway, and I was really lucky too that I had all that. And then when the opportunity arose, I was able to apply, go and interview. And then I tell you one thing Tab did teach me that was kind of interesting. When you interview, be affable and try to make people think or make them fully understand you're not a threat. Like, in other words, they're not going to dread hiring you. They're not going to come to work dreading seeing you. Like, they're going to like, oh yeah, you know. And so when I went and interviewed, I was like this real staunch. I was just like, yeah, you know, hey, how you doing, sir? Respectful, but I was like, you know, I cut some jokes. And then they kind of realized, oh, well, you know, you've got a personality. He's a funny guy. You know, he's interesting. So yeah, so and then you know, and that way they, you know, and then of course like I said, of the 35 guys I competed for my job, I'm the only one who had a little ticket. So like, dude, like you're hired because we're going to get our money back. So definitely going to hire you, right? Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So and then and I was doing that. And the only reason I stopped doing that and moved to here was because I had a great team of guys. A senior army instructor, Joe Merle, God, he was awesome. So awesome. Awesome guy, but he retired, right? And then my other partner, the other army instructor, Dalton Bro, first arm bro, Dalton, great tanker. That dude, us three, we were the three horsemen. We got everything done. We ran the school. Everybody, you know, the students, it was just a great dynamic. I looked forward to coming to work. Like, I didn't look forward to coming to work in the Army every day. You know that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? And, oh, by the way, it took me about 2 years after I retired to stop cringing when the phone fucking rang.
Yeah.
On there, I'm sorry, but
no, you
yes.
good. You didn't have that BlackBerry anymore, though. Whatever they gave you guys at the time, you're good.
But dude, when my phone at the house would ring, you know, it was always like my weekends ruined, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah. First thought. Yeah, that's your first thought.
When my phone rang, weekend's over. We're screwed, right? And my kids always, my son still remember, yeah, Dad, the phone would ring and you're holding me and you're just like, we're like, oh shit. And they'd go scurrying off like, let's get away from Dad because Dad's going to be pissed for a while.
Damn.
And so it took about 2 years for me to stop cringing. Like one day I was the phone rang and my wife's like, why are you all tensed up right now? And I'm like, I don't know. And I realized, oh, it's because I think it's bad news, right? And so yeah, working with those three guys, and then having students that want to be in your class because they want to be there. It's an elective. Was like great. It was fun. I mean, I enjoyed going to work. I looked forward to going to work. Yeah, I'd have one bad parent a year, one helicopter mom or steamroller dad who would. And no, that was so funny because I would be passive aggressive with them all to the end all days, right? Like
yeah.
And then go, wow, you're a very emotional person, aren't you? Just gaslight him a little bit, let him go some more, and then kind of really show my assistant principal, my supervisor, you see what I'm dealing with here? And then they'd be like, okay, you need to chill down, Mr. So-and-so. No, you're not in charge of this. No, this ain't Burger King. You're not going to have it your way. If you don't like him as your son's instructor or daughter's instructor, then take him out of the class. It's
right.
They don't need it for graduation. And it's not a requirement to do it to be in the Army either. So, you know. But anyway, but the team was breaking up. Joe was retiring. They were bringing a new guy in. I wasn't getting a good feeling with this guy, you know. And I was like, you know, you don't pay me enough to have to put up with people, right? Let's just be honest. I'm getting paid enough money, but it ain't that much. So, you know what? And about that time, some opportunities opened up here at Texas A&M, and I was kind of a known thing because I had 3 sons in the program. So I'd been around for about a decade, so all the guys knew me. And
right.
My sons were always, and all their buddies were going, oh, Sergeant Major, you got to go apply out there at A&M. Look at you. You're the poster boy. You're this and that. You go out there. Those guys will love you and this and this and this. And I'm like, well, okay. Maybe it's a higher class of criminal. We'll see. And so I applied, and, you know, I interviewed. I did well. And then, yeah, you know, the first year was kind of a struggle because these are young adults. And reminding myself they're young adults. And then it was a COVID year, so they were all kind of weird. Those cadets were kind of weird. So it was a bit of a struggle. They were like a typical group of Aggies, right, per se. But now they're kind of going back and getting better. But it was still okay. And I had that same relationship. I have that same relationship in this job now with the guys I work with, my peers and my superiors. We're a team. We're like, a team of teams. Yeah, we're military oriented, but we only wear our uniforms because we have parades or something we got to do. Rest of the time, and every now and then, the commandant will be like, "Hey, Sergeant Major, why don't you wear a uniform today?" And I'm like, "They know who I am. I don't need to,
Yeah.
They've seen the stuff on my walls. They've seen everything on my chest. I mean, it's all good. It's
right.
And I'll explain to them, was like, this don't make me Superman guy. All these fishing lures I got on all these scout badges I got. This is just skill qualifications I had to earn because they needed me to do that. And then the idea is you wear them on your uniform so any officer knows what your qualifications are, and there you go. It's not to me an ego trip. I didn't go to these schools because I wanted to earn a pretty badge. I went to schools because I had to learn these skills, knowledge, and abilities, and then use that in my unit, right, in my operations. Yeah. And so I said, so that's, but yeah, I got all the badges that an infantryman's supposed to have, right? But so I just laughed, like, okay, sir, I'll put my uniform on, whatever. But the cadets, they don't. They're still. Well, they're funny because like I'm the first sergeant major they've seen in like forever, and so like I get called gunnery sergeant, I get called master sergeant, I get saluted. That's the best part. When I'm in uniform, particularly when I'm in my dress uniform with my chevrons, right, and they'll salute me, boy. They're just, and I'm like, okay, thank you, but you don't salute me. I just keep walking.
Yeah, other way around there, partner.
Well, the thing about it is I've never been this guy of like barking at somebody if they misidentified me. That's just not my thing. I know some guys light somebody up, pay attention to detail. No. I'll be like, like somebody calls me master sergeant, like, well, I'm not a master sergeant, but cool. Have a nice day. And I just keep going about my business. I don't give a crap. At least you agree with me. How about that? Because I remember there's times when guys would see me coming, and oh shit, that's Sergeant Major Wood, and they would exit stage right or stage left or do a rear march and double time, and I'd tell, and then they'd run, and I'd go, yeah, run away, coward.
Damn. They must have been walking on your grass or something like that, man. They must have been doing something, but.
Oh, but that, like that used to crack me up too. I never gave a shit about that. Like
I know some did, some of them did.
Well, no, you're right, because all my sergeant majors, like I'd be cutting across the grass, and Teddy Harmon, who's down in San Antonio with the hammer, Teddy Harmon III, right, Sergeant Major Harmon. This guy, Ranger, paratrooper, Vietnam. I mean, this dude's a warrior, right? But I'd be like, trucking across the lawn, right, trying to take a shortcut, and he'd stop. He drove this nice, big Jeep lift kit. He'd slam on his brakes and pull down the flap on his window, his door there, and go, "Hey, Zipperhead, get the fuck off my grass." And I go, "Oh, hey, Sergeant Major, sorry." I'd get off his grass. And, he would just always laugh, because I know he'd be doing stuff like that. And then later on, he'd say, "Hey, Wood, give me some push-ups for that." I was like, "Okay, Roger, Sergeant Major, I don't care." Like, whatever. I'm going to walk on the grass again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you catch me, I don't give a shit.
Oh,
but
well.
No, so when you put up stuff, say, by order of the Sergeant Major, I was like, who put the sign up? I didn't order shit. Take it down. Don't use my name in vain.
That's what they're doing. There you go.
But so the cadets are funny, and so I enjoy them. But they're motivated. Most of them want to serve. Whether they serve in the military, they serve, geopolitical stuff, or they serve the State Department or public service. They really do. These young men and women. So and like I said, they're a higher class of criminal. They're adults. So, if I drop an F-bomb in front of them, I'm not going to worry about a parent getting all pissy at me because they're adults. Every now and then I'll remind a parent, I don't know why you're talking to me. If they get all mad about something, I don't know why you're talking to me, sir. Your son is a grown-ass man. Why don't you go talk to the commandant and tell him I said that? Good luck. Right? And because the commandant will say the same thing. Well, Sergeant Major Wood does have a point. Your son or your daughter is a grown-ass adult. So let them adult. It'll be okay.
Exactly.
What you want.
What's one thing you wish you would have known before you got out the military?
Well, I would tell you that one thing. I really wish we had addressed. I think the mental health thing a little bit better. Like really pushed on that. To be honest with you, really promoted it. Told these guys stop lying on the deal. I wish I'd stopped lying on the deal and actually gone and gotten treated earlier much earlier. Yeah. And then, like, making sure guys that are snoring, hey, go get your sleep study. I don't care. Tell the first sergeant, hey, take a chill. You ain't gonna have him for training, whatever. Get him his stuff. Get it taken care of. It's gonna be more productive. It's gonna be healthier. Um, it's gonna make him a better person, better soldier for you, better leader for you. Um, but yeah, and then really forcing those guys to understand is like, hey, if you're gonna rely on the Army for your transition services, good luck, because it's not really all that there. And I would tell guys, like, straight up, like, this is a little plug for where I work. Not to be in the Corps, but like I would tell you, like, we have a lot of veteran students here at A&M because we have one of the best veteran service centers in the nation. So that students from other colleges have a problem getting their GI Bill straight, and these cats, they'll call up and they'll walk other universities through that stuff and make sure that people get their pay, get their money right, get their benefits. And then the guy we got working here, he's a retired colonel. The guy over it, he also works with us, so because we have a lot of veterans who are in the Corps as well, but pushing to make sure that we get them on lists so that if there's other scholarships out there for them, we get them roped into that, because that's just money sitting there that needs to go to a good student and take another load of stress off the shoulders so you can really focus on your academics.
Okay. What was the main thing that did you ever struggle with, like, leaving Sergeant Major Wood behind when you got out of the service and to transition into Frank, or not really?
No, not really, because I mean, like, well, like I'd see some stuff and then be like, yeah, boy, I'd really like to go rip that guy's ass, and be like, nah, he's got somebody who can take care of that. I don't need to deal with that.
Yeah. So you were good. I mean, you did it for 30 years. So it's like at that time, it's like you're almost recreating yourself, because you joined when you were a young guy, young adult, and then you go in and you're like, damn, you pretty much got to recreate yourself. And I talked to another Sergeant Major, Orlando, not too long ago. He did 32. He said the same thing I'm saying here is like, you're pretty much doing a whole new life when you get out.
Yeah, well, yeah, sure. I mean, so, and understand that, yeah, hey, man, I'm retired. And then, like, even telling, like I'm respectful to, don't get me wrong, like, everybody that works in the Corps for the combat staff, we're all retired military, all of us retired military, in every grade. But, like, when I walked in, and of course, every now and then they'll call me Sergeant Major, this and that, and be like, hey, it's Frank, all right? You're Rob, you're John, I know you're a lieutenant colonel retired, and then now when we're around the cadets, we'll be like sir and sergeant major and this and that, right? But when we're amongst ourselves, it's like, yeah, no, it's Frank, and I, like, the gunnies are always being like real, the gunnery sergeants, and we're always being like really, and I'm like, hey, gentlemen, my name's Frank. We're all retired, dude. Our ranks that we were in is great. That's fantastic, whatever. But now we're civilians. We're retired. My name's Frank. You're Daz. You're Chad. You're Steve. That's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless I come up with a cool nickname for you, like Scuba Steve.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. That's cool that you didn't really struggle with that. It seems like sometimes a lot of people are afraid to leave that rank at the door and, like, check into the next chapter of life.
Well, for me, like, being a sergeant major, like, that never was, like, really my goal, to be honest with you. For me, it was always about, like the real goal I had is I wanted to be a platoon sergeant. I wanted to be a rapid sergeant, really good rapid platoon sergeant. And I did that. And doing that, then, I was like, okay. And about that time, I had about 16, almost 17 years in, and it looked like I was never going to get promoted. I was like, okay, well, I'll be fine retiring like this at 20. And then I suddenly get promoted, after a few looks to master sergeant. Okay, well, let's try to be a first sergeant, see how that goes. And that was a fun job. That was an okay job. But even then, I wasn't thinking about becoming a sergeant major, and then I became a sergeant major. And then, to be honest with you, I did the job. It's an okay job. I felt the better job was either for me, I had more fun and more reward being a platoon sergeant or being a first sergeant than being a sergeant major, just to be honest with you. I felt
that's fair.
More rewarding, particularly, in combat. As a sergeant major, dude, my job was really to be a rifleman and to go out and be the honest broker and come back and tell the boss, hey, that company commander's bullshitting you. You know, them guys are getting smoked, man. Someone's going to get greased out here. We need to redo these patrol schedules and how much time we're on there because, dude, I'm a pretty tough guy, and I'm out there for 4 straight hours. And by the time I'm a basket case, so I can imagine what this 18, 19-year-old stuffy over here is doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, seriously.
Sucking. And so, and so then and so taking care of the people, yeah, that's work too. That's that. That's a lot of admin stuff. That's a lot of, nitnoid kind of, bureaucratic bit. That's cool. And that's why it's just like, I checked the block to compete for brigade sergeant. I didn't want to be a brigade sergeant because that's just even more of that and more of that. And then, no disrespect to non-sergeant majors, but when I talked to most of those guys, they were just bureaucrats. And I'm like, why would I want to do that? If I'm not leading people and I'm not being a warrior, well, what's the point of being in the Army for me?
Right.
In the first place. I want to be a ranger. I want to be a warrior, right? So if I'm not doing that, and then and even though it would have been a great job to do at Fort Polk to help a new generation of sergeants major figure it out, right? And give them some best practices and all that stuff. It's just, again, at that point, when the Army's got an attitude of, fuck your family and kind of fuck you, well, okay, it's time for me to retire. You don't need no more from me. You'll replace me. There'll be somebody else to promote who will replace me. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'm a linchpin. I got it. And that's that. And so I guess my point being is that my identity wasn't just weighted as to me as a sergeant major. Like that's all I am. That's all. I try to remind guys all the time. I wasn't born a sergeant major. I was a freaking PFC, right? So all this shit you try to pull and try to bullshit with me, I did it and got away with it. You just didn't.
Yeah.
You think I'm shocked? You think I'm like, oh no? I'm like, no, you're just lazy, man. See, if you were really good at being a kind of a criminal, we would have caught you.
Yeah.
But we did. So now, why don't you just be a man and just man up to it, suck it up, deal with it, take your punishment, and get better. And so that was a lesson I try to tell young guys all the time. I'm not in here being sanctimonious, dude. I'm just telling you straight up. Anytime I wanted to play a game when I was a PFC specialist, even as a buck sergeant, I stopped messing around when I became a staff sergeant. I really stopped messing around then. But up until then, I bet the rules. Yeah. I was going to be off the train a bit. And if I got caught, well, I'd stand in front of the man and I'd tell my boss, I'd tell the old man, I'm retarded, sir. I don't know what to tell you. Right?
Yeah.
You got me. It's, look, I got arrested for getting a blowjob. My first weekend up in Alaska. And we were parked on post, right? Because I couldn't bring the girl into my room, right? Because you couldn't bring her in the barracks, right?
Yeah.
So we decided to park in this park area, this little park area. And it's like 9, 10 o'clock. Park was closed. I didn't know that. And we're in there and, getting busy. Next thing you know, tappy, tap, tap, tap. That's an MP, right?
Yeah.
I look over and I get arrested. I got my pants down around my ankles. I'm like, damn, dude. And my company commander, who's from Houston, Texas, right? Captain Barron. I still remember this guy's name. Captain Barron had to drive in to sign for me. This is my first weekend. I just got to the unit, right? I just got there, right?
Yeah.
And so it's so funny. And so he comes and gets me, right? And he's not like really pissed. He's kind of disappointed, because here I'm Ranger, I'm the high speed dude, right? Right? We're not really thinking we're going to get this kind of bullshit, right? But so he picks me up and takes me back to the barracks. He goes, I'm not telling you restricted, but your weekend's over, right? Yes, sir. I got it. So just hang around on post, and we'll talk about this Monday morning, okay? We'll sort it out, all right? Don't worry, your platoon sergeant knows, your platoon leader knows, first sergeant knows that. Now, Monday morning was really just an ass chewing in front of the company, right, by the first sergeant. But it was kind of funny. It was Teddy Hartman. He was the first sergeant at the time, so he chewed my ass in front of everybody. And so it was, and that's how it is, and that's okay. That's okay. And you just learn, some days you eat the bar, and some days the bar eats you, right? And so just be a man, take your medicine, and then show them that doesn't define you, and soldier up from that. Now, in today's Army, can you do all that? Probably not. Most guys will have no patience for it. They want to kick you out like that. Right. I got it.
Right.
It is what it is. You can't affect that as an Army's attitude. That would require the chief of staff trickling down, matriculating down with all summaries on those guys saying, hey, we're not going to just dump these guys for stuff like that. But I mean, when you're kicking guys out for a COVID shot, right? Come on.
Yeah. And they're giving them no time. I actually talked to someone that was in the reserves, and a buddy of mine, he was saying they gave him like 30 days to clear post, man. Like, so people like that, if they denied that, if you had time left, they don't, you have, I would like to talk to some more people to see how their transition went, because I'm sure there's plenty of people that went out.
I have cadets that want to serve to this day, but they dropped their contracts, and I don't blame them because that COVID shot, you don't know what's going to happen.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's brought a lot of awareness to the world, I guess, in a sense. And people don't know that not in the military, but as we all do know, when we were in the military, you just line up like a cow, man. You getting all stuck. No one thought about, well, I'm not doing that or I'm not doing this. So it sort of brought an awareness of thinking about, hey, what are we really doing with ourselves? Which is a good thing. Everyone can have their own opinion, but hey, it's your life. Do as you please, pick as you please. But in the military, you don't get that choice at Fort Jackson when you line up, or Fort Benning. You didn't get that choice.
No, and you're right. Like, I mean, unless you have like certain allergies and stuff like that, then they're going to say, okay, we'll defer it, right?
Yeah.
But like, for me, well, think about it. You're 18, 19. You're front low until you're about 25, 26.
Right.
Then you can start thinking. So, like, yeah, I took experimental vaccines like plague. Like, it's just
smallpox, anthrax.
You're giving me, is this a live like plague virus you're giving me here? Like, well, yeah. Is this safe? And they're like, well, you'll be sick for the weekend, but you'll get over it. Okay. I have to get this? Yeah, okay, you get it. And again, because I'm like 18 at the time, I'm like, okay, where are we going to go that we're going to be dealing with plague, right? So your brain starts thinking about that. And so, but now by the time the anthrax, all my buddies got that, when I was lined up to get it, oh no, my son's got this or that, and this, I got a person in the house, and okay, we'll defer it. So I didn't get the anthrax. I kind of.
That was like the start of my career, I think. Or anthrax or smallpox was like around, like, I got in 07, so they were experimenting around that time.
I kind of gamed around that a little bit. And then they tried to do the smallpox. I said, no, I had that as a kid. I had the inoculations as a kid. Don't tell me you don't know if it lasts forever. Stop it. I'm not getting it again.
Yeah.
Well, then again, I mean, they tried to make me get a government credit card. And they said, well, of course, this could go on your credit report. I was like, well, then I'm not getting it. Oh, you have to travel with a government credit card. Okay, you know what? And it's so funny. I told this lawyer right to his face. I said, charge me and find out what happens.
There you
because
go.
I'll travel with my own personal credit card. And I'll make my reservation with my own personal credit card. And I will pay my bills. I'm not getting that. I will not travel that. I don't hear shit. I don't hear. We're done with this conversation, sir. We're done. Charge me and find out what happens. Just do it. I went right to the double dog area. I just escalated.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta do that.
You can't do that, dude. Come on, you can't make me take something that could ruin my credit because you don't pay stuff on time. You don't settle it on time, right? Because you hire these civilians out in Rome, New York, to process everybody's. Nah, I don't want to hear that stuff. And so, there's those things. But see, to me, like I said, that's a clear indicator. You need to tell guys like, hey, first of all, if it's a vaccine, then it prevents it. It doesn't prevent it, so it's not a vaccine. Now, could it be, something that helps with it? Okay, great, could be. But again, you don't know enough about the side effects. You don't have a broad enough study, you have a large enough sample. Of course, now you kind of do. Give it about 5 years to see what you get. But I mean, that's jacked up. But right. Back to the other thing is that, again, I got perfectly healthy, perfectly solid 19, 20, 21-year-old cadets who want to serve, who want to contract. But no, I'm not taking that test, so they take their contract back. Okay, well, then don't get pissy when you can't make your mission. Don't get stupid about it.
I'm sure they'll make a waiver or something like that to get the numbers back up again. It's always a roller coaster ride.
I think so, and like I told the guys when they were asking me, do you think they're going to? I said they're going to make it a readiness, a deployment readiness issue, and that's how they're going to work it. That's just how they're going to do it because when you make anything a deployment readiness issue, you'll be amazed at the things you can throw up underneath there and get away with it, and Congress can't say shit about it. And that's why they did it because if they did it any other way, see, you'd have a very solid defense for it. So one thing about Army warriors, they are smart about gaming the situation. But in the end, it really takes leadership. That it just cracks me up that you got a chief of staff going out now, McConnell, would say stuff like, this guy's the chief of staff. I say stuff like, well, when I was a battalion commander and I was a brigade commander, and they want us to do this, that, and other thing, and I didn't have time, and I had time to do this, not that. Well, guess what? We didn't do consideration of others training. We just lied about it. We didn't do it. We did this and that. Well, gee, chief of staff, but you're still kicking guys out for COVID.
Yeah.
Where's your center on this hypocrisy, man? And so you gotta, it's in for penny, in for a pound. Like it's all or nothing in this. That's how the Army has to be. You just can't be selectively obedient when the karma's right.
Yeah.
And so that's the other indicator that until you get some leadership, I'm talking from the SecDef on down, right? Who will push back, who will say no. We're going to create this. If they want to put in, because you got Viking religion dudes walking around with freaking beards now. So guess what? They're making this exemption for COVID.
Yeah, man. They're going to have to do it at some point if they need those numbers. But I was going to ask you.
That's a big thing. In fact, that's the only thing that some of these guys are reticent on trying to go and get a contract or go to OCS. Like finish your college, enlist, and go to OCS. That they're still reticent about is because that fucking COVID shot. And some of they've had COVID. So, like, why am I getting a shot if I've already had COVID and gotten over it?
Exactly. It's a whole conundrum, dude.
And
hey,
they got this documented, right, in the records, the COVID. They've got it documented. So, again, it goes back to this, like, hey, if you care about people and you want to keep an all-volunteer force, which I do, because it's a great, like, the conscripts can always bitch, moan, and complain. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. But a guy who volunteers, if he starts talking, I don't want to be here. Then why the fuck did you volunteer? Shut your mouth. Just shut up. Don't re-enlist. Right? And then tell him, shut up. I don't want to hear your complaints.
How would you rate give me one word for your time in service? What would you say?
Oh, I would tell you memorable.
Memorable.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Like, people. It is always about the people. Everything else aside, it was those relationships, good and bad. Because it's just as good stories about the good ones as there is about the bad ones. Even the bad ones have some pretty good stories.
Yeah.
And so being part of that legacy, something bigger than yourself, that connection. You know what I mean?
Most definitely. You want to share anything else before we take off for the day?
Hey, no matter the length of your service, no matter the depth or whatever your service, it's service. And, when guys ask you about legacies like the Afghanistan debacle and Iraq and all that kind of stuff, I never thought about the strategic geopolitical implications of any of that shit. For me, I try to keep it real simple. It's about the guy to my left, the guy to my right, the guy behind me, the guy in front of me. It's about my team. It was about serving honorably with those guys, taking care of each other, and kicking the enemy's ass and bringing it as many as I could home, healthy, safe, with their digits, right? Just doing the best I could. That fidelity, that faithfulness, and that is a measure of your service, not the end state of all that. It's how you served your fellow soldier then, or your fellow sailor, fellow Marine, fellow airman, fellow guardian, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's just how you did it. That's really what, in the end of the day, would matter. It doesn't matter, was the war righteous? Was the war right? Was the war fair? Was the war just? Were we successful per se? I was successful because I trained my folks hard. I led them. I was relentless to keep them from being complacent, to bring as many of them as I could home. And it was the vast majority. And I make no apologies for that. And that's where I grade myself.
All right. Well, hey, Frank, I appreciate you sharing your stories. I appreciate your sacrifice and your dedication. It seemed like you're an awesome Sergeant Major. I would have liked to catch you in active duty. It seems like, you're down to earth and you're a hard ass at the same time, which is always good because you got to be able to get on your soldiers and your guys level, girls level, at those times so you can relate. So I appreciate you and good luck with everything. Keep in touch. And if you know anyone else, get them on this call to action. That way, us NCOs and leaders in general, you know, just it can never stop. It sort of did stop a little bit when we got out. Sometimes we lose where we're going to go, or we don't know where we're going. But at the end of the day, you know, we can continue to serve each other and bring light to the dark places that people may be, you know, in or going through, man. So I appreciate your time today, and I look forward to hearing back from you and hearing from your friends and your colleagues as well.
Right, well, gig 'em. Texas A&M University.
Hook 'em horns. No, man. I like the Gators, man, but they've fallen off, man. I don't got too much room to talk in college, man. But I'm gonna catch you out there in that stadium one day, though, man.
We're trying to get the Horns on our current schedule. We're trying to get them as permanent rivals again.
You need something, man. You got to get that rivalry going, man. Take care, brother.
Yeah, and LSU rivalry, Philly.